everybody, I'm Tom Vasel and welcome to 7 short reviews. And I'm going to go through here from various games that have come into the Dice Tower. And we have a very varied slate for you here, not just in size, but in the values of these. We're going to be talking about them from the smallest to the largest, so here we go. First, we have Boblin's Rebellion. Boblin's Rebellion is made from phase shift games, and they're known for dropping cubes type games. They've made at least 2 of these games, a fantasy one and then a space one. This looks exactly like those, and in fact, there's some crossover rules of this where you can use some of the creatures in them. But this is not that. This is what we call an engine building game, where you're building a little engine of cards to accomplish things. Let me show you. In this game, there's going to be 4 decks of cards. Well, you can not use the heroes. That's kind of an extra module, but I always would. And you'll have 3 cards of each kind face up. Each player is going to have a board in front of you. There are 2 sides of the board. You can play with a more advanced side, which adds in trolls. That would be a pain in the neck to you. And you have your little goblins, and on your board, these little goblins are different types. So right now I have 2 sticklers. There's screamers, sparklers, stalkers, slingers, and stabbers, each with their own icon, and each you can have a certain number of them. On a player's turn, they're going to get a couple actions. One of the actions they can use is they can just add 3 more sticklers or 2 screamers to their supply. Another thing they can do is they can acquire a card. When you acquire cards, they have costs. Like this one here costs 2 sticklers, while the red one down here costs 1 slinger. So I don't have that one, so I could take that one, or I could go up here. This one cost me 1 screamer and 1 stickler. So I can decide which card I'm going to take. When you take a card, you'll put a cube here to show how many times you use that card. And on my turn, instead, as an action, instead of taking a card or getting more sticklers or screamers, I can use one of these. So this lets me turn anything here into 1 sparkler and 1 stickler. Or I can turn a stalker into one of anything and this. You always do the top one. So I can turn one of anything into those 2. And for part of the same action, I can also pay a stalker to get another sparkler and another slinger. So these kind of cards are usually going to let me do conversion. This one here lets me just turn a stickler into a stabber or a stalker. And every time you use the card, you move this over. When it gets to the end, you put the card aside, but you get the reward. Here's a point, and here it just gives me this. Many of the cards are going to give you points of the red type, and these, again, same thing. I can use this. I can spend 1 sparkler and 1 of anything to get 2 points. I can use both the actions I have in my turn, instead of just taking 1 action, to get an additional 2 points. And this card can be used 3 times. So the gray cards are about building up and getting more things. The red cards are about getting victory points. The blue cards kind of give you special abilities. This one says whenever one of my neighbors gets a stabber, I can take a stabber or a victory point for each one. This one says whenever I get a stickler, I can get a stabber. And this one here says whenever one of my neighbors gets a gray card, I can get a victory point or take a sparkler. You're going to keep track of your victory points here, and as soon as someone gets to 27, you win. I mentioned the other side. As you get certain points on here, trolls will come, and they're going to block you from having things, but you have a chance to fight trolls off and get rid of them so that you can again use these different parts. That's how you play. I also mentioned those hero cards which you can discard some cards that you finished already. The rules are actually a little confusing about that, but then they give you like a special ability for the rest of the game, and they're also worth some points. This is just a race for points. It's changing these goblins into those goblins into these goblins, and then changing those goblins into points. It works pretty well. It's hard to be super cohesive about it and build any kind of strategy. It's a very tactical game. That's the card that's available. That's what I get. It's hard to build a strong deck when you have 3 out there, and by the time it comes back to you, they may not be there. Also, as a very small side note, I don't like the faces on the one side. That matters for the dropping game. In this game, it's kind of annoying to try to put them face up or not. It doesn't really matter. I prefer the side with the trolls better. I think that adds a little bit of oomph to the game as you score points. You then have some negative things that you have to kind of overcome. But it's just a race for points. It's fun. It's silly. Sort of. I mean, the gameplay isn't silly, but the theme is kind of silly. And it's one I found to be enjoyable. Stalkers, stabbers, slingers, sparklers, and screamers. So you're trying to take over the dungeon with these goblins, and buying the 3 different types of cards and the friend cards kind of comes together in a little cohesive package. I think this is a game that looks different than it plays, and I'm not sure that's a good thing, because I think some people will buy this expecting one thing, and people who like engine building games might pass, but I found it enjoyable, a 7 out of 10. Lure is a game about catching fish, something I haven't done for well over 30 years now, but I know a lot of people like doing it, and this game is about that, but it's about rolling dice. I think I reviewed an early version of this. This is a more streamlined version from All Play. Let's take a look. Each player is going to have a shield, and behind that shield, you're going to have your 7 dice. 5 regular dice, a 12-sided, and a 20-sided. You also start with a lure, which is randomly drawn from a pile of lures that you have. At the beginning of each round, you'll add 3 fish to the middle. If there's no fish in the middle, then we just put them here. And each person is going to secretly decide how many dice they're going to bid. So for this, let's say, for example, I just bid these 3 dice here, but I also bid my lure. If I bid my lure, I'm going to use it. Whoever bids the fewest dice gets to go first. So maybe the purple player just bid 2 dice. So they're going to roll this, and they rolled 12 and 3. So for this one, they need to get a 9 plus and have a 2, 3, and a 4. A 12 plus and have a 5. A 4 plus and have used the lure. They've done none of those. So now it's my turn. I've used the lure, so I have a better chance here. Oh, things aren't looking good there. I don't think I got any of them. Nope. I got this 4 plus, and I used the lure because I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I almost got that one, but I needed a 2, 3, and a 4, and I only had a 2 and a 4. So I'll take the fish that I got. That's good. The lure I use is discarded. If I used either of my special dice, the 12 or 20-sided, they go in front of my screen. Anyone who doesn't catch a fish draws a lure. Some lures you can bet when you bid, and if you're correct, you'll get extra points. Some have a number like I showed you. Some add plus or minus 1. Any fish that aren't taken stay in the middle, and we put out new ones. This one says you need 25 with no lure. This has no special abilities, you just need 13. This says you need 10, and 2 of the dice are the same. Some fish, when they come out, something will happen. They'll bring out extra fish, or everybody gets to draw a free lure. And when you've gone through the whole deck of cards, which is adjusted based on the number of players, whoever has the most points on their fish is the winner. What I like about Lear is that you get to pick the different dice that you're going to roll. You know, I can choose the dice, but if you roll the 20 or 12-sided dice in Lore, you say, oh, that's the die I didn't mean to use, but or whatever it might be, but you're not going to get to use it till the next turn. It is generally lucky. There's no question that Lear is a lucky game. I like playing Lore, but sometimes the dice just don't come up your way. Yes, those chips will help you modify things, and I think the chips help a lot. But the game is also short enough that it doesn't matter to me. It's 15 minutes, and it's loads of fun as I'm playing Lore to say, oh, I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to try to get something, and I failed. And you're also trying to outthink everybody else. As I'm, hiding dice, and you're hiding dice, I'm like, oh, man, am I gonna use the lure token? I don't know. Should I add that to the dice in my hand? And I find that to be just a fun little back and forth. It's quick, it's simple, it's what I call a filler game, a game that you kind of play between other games. And I like the theme. I think the production value is high. I have noticed there's several people. This is definitely a divisive game. Some people don't like it. Some people think it's okay. Some people like it more than others. I'm on the side that enjoys it. I think it's fun to see what happens, so that is why I like Lure. 7 out of 10. Courtisans is a small game here from Pandasaurus. And this is a game in which the queen is to have a banquet, there's backstabbing, and you are trying to be a family who will be held in esteem. Here's how it plays. Here the court is placed in the middle of the table. There is a deck of cards that's going to match the 6 families of the court here. At the beginning of the game, everyone's going to get 2 secret missions. This one says I need to have less hares, that's this family, than my left neighbor, and I'll get 3 victory points into the game. And a family must have 5 cards below the mat. On your turn, you're going to look at the 3 cards that you have, and you're going to do, each card must go to a certain location. One card, doesn't matter which one, goes in front of you. That's a card of your family. One card goes above or below on the mat, and the other card you put in front of a neighbor. That's it. At the end of the game, you're going to take a look at each of the families. If there are more cards below the mat, then that family has fallen from grace. And then, so let's say blue was fallen from grace, there's more cards underneath than that. And I had 3 blue cards in front of me, I lose 3 points. If there's more cards above than below, then that family is esteemed, and I get 1 point for each of my cards, plus the bonus missions I have. There are some special cards you can play over the course of the game. This one just counts as 2 cards wherever you play it. This one lets you kill another card in the location that it is. Doesn't matter where or what the card is. Spies are played face down, so you don't know what they are. And these guys can never be killed by the assassins. That's pretty much the game. Once this deck empties, you score up, and someone wins. I hate everything and everything this game stands for. Well, I don't know about the standing for part, but wow, is this game so boring. I really despise it. You play 3 cards. You play 1 in the middle of the table, you play 1 in front of you, you play 1 in front of someone else. Here's the thing. This kind of game has already been done to death. The whole idea of a stock market game where I'm collecting stocks and then hoping the values don't go up or down. But here you see what's happening. The cards that you play face down are by far the most interesting cards in the game. But it doesn't matter. You're drawing 3 random cards, so you don't have any real agency here. It's almost like a take that game. I just found it to be completely boring all the way through. I sit here, an assassin, I can kill a card, everyone, and then you don't know what people's secret objectives are, and even if you did, you can't really mess with them. Mine is have 5 cards above the board. Fine. I never drew those cards. Well, oh well. There's nothing I really like about this game other than good art, nice cards. So for me, this is just not one that I enjoy at all. I mean, I really disliked it. 3 out of 10. And it gets the couple points because it's pretty, and some people will probably enjoy it. But that's Courtisans. 13 Beavers is a kid's game. It is a game in which you're going to move around the track by guessing higher or lower. It's kind of funny here because this game here, which is from Format Games, is like, they like straight up took the look and feeling of a big potato game, but this is not a big potato game, but wow. I guess you can't copyright a style, but if I was Big Potato, I'd be like, hey, dude, you made this game look just like ours. Anyway, it's a kid's game. You're moving your beaver and trying to get to the end line first. Here's how it plays. In this game, each player is going to be a beaver with your dam. And there is a deck of cards in this game, and you will have 1 card revealed. And so when it's your turn, you decide higher or lower. So I'll say higher. The next card is higher, so I move forward 1. Now I can stop. If I want to stop, I just call my dam and have the dam come up to me and my turn's over. I can keep going. I'll say lower. Oh, it wasn't lower. So back I go. Had it been lower, I would have kept moving. You can stop anytime. You can't stop on these lava space. You have to keep going. If you get to the fish area, there's a bunch of magnetic fish here. You will fish. Whee! Grab a fish, and it gives you some sort of bonus. Time travel. Ooh, you can draw another card or something like that. If you go here and you guess higher or lower, if you're correct, you go all the way up to here. If you're incorrect, you go all the way back. When you go here, you have to stop and draw 1, and you are eventually going to flip over the actual trash panda and keep going. If you get here, you can go from this tunnel to this tunnel. Shortens the game considerably, except you have to guess the exact number. 8. 6. Okay, never mind. Then I go back to where my dam is. And that's the game. Yawn! Wow, this game is boring. I was really surprised. I mean, it has a spot with fishing with magnet pull, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Only if you land on that space or go to that space or stop at that space. That's it. It's 1 time. And then you might catch a bad fish. That's fun for kids. But the biggest problem is just the higher or lower aspect. If it's a 7, you decide. If it's a 10, you always guess higher. If it's a 4, if it's a 10, you always guess lower. If it's a 4, you always guess higher. There's no real choices here. I played this with my son, and he was so frustrated because it would be like 11. He'd say lower. Then we'd draw 12. Now, we might be like, ha, ha, ha. He just got frustrated. So he just went to the spot where you flip the card over and guess the number directly. He never got it. He just kept trying it over and over again because he said, what does it matter? If you fail that spot, you don't just go back to your dam. You go all the way back to the start, but the start's like 5 spaces away. You move up, you try it again. It's just so, there's nothing here. This is essentially a roll and move game in the modern era with a cool magnet fish and a neat looking board, but it's not a good game. 4 out of 10, 13 Beavers. Open Season has a really fun theme. Well, fun, I mean, you are a villain here, and people keep coming into your dungeon. So you know what you're going to do? You're going to put their heads on the wall. Don't worry, it's not gruesome. They're all weird orcs and elves and things like that. There's no blood. It's just ha ha ha, their heads are on your wall. So that's the theme of the game. Now, take that theme, take a rag, squeeze it out, because the theme is gone. This is just a number game where you're trying to put cards in order on your mantle. Let me show you. All right, folks, in this game, you're going to have 11 turns. And in those 11 turns, you're going to be choosing from these face-up folks up here. You're going to be choosing people, and you're going to be slowly filling in this grid, which is going to score you points. Each round, you're going to get 2 people. You're going to place one, and then put the other one here in your stock. And then at the beginning of a turn, you'll take all the creatures in your stock and put them here in your accolades. These accolades matter because at the end of the game, whatever type you have here, so these are elves, for example, well, I'll score -2 for every elf that's in my accolades, and this is vampires or something, whatever. I get -3. These give me 1 for every one of my accolades. These give me 2. These give me 10 if I have the most. Anytime you have a creature up here, if you place a creature here, you get to use a special action, which is draw more cards or things like that. There's a lot of other rules to placing things out here. These have to be different, the 2 cards that are here. All these cards have to be different. If you place a card here, if you place all 3 of these in the rounds 3 to 6, you get some bonus tokens. If you place a card here, you get some bonuses based on when you get to do it. If this is placed here in your first 4 turns, then you get to change, you get to put another token out. As you can see, there's a lot of little rules. But essentially the game is take 2, put 1 out, put 1 here. This might trigger another action. At the beginning of your turn, take all the cards here. There might be more because there's lots of different actions that could give you more or give you less. And put them in your accolades. At the end of the game, after 11 turns, you score everything. There's a little bit more to the game than that. There's also 2 sides. This side's a slightly shorter game. But that's basically how it works. I would imagine in Open Season there is a lot of good mechanisms and there are some interesting ideas in here. The idea of taking the head and putting it down here and then moving them over here and then these will score. And if you put a card here first, you do that. This game is work. This is a spreadsheet of a game. I have seen nobody like this game because they sit there and go, where's the joy? There is no joy in Open Season. Because it's just kind of, you take some cards and you go, I'll put this card here. And there's so many rules. These cards have to be different. If you play a card here, if you turn 5, you get this bonus. And this bonus does this. And this moves over here. And this gets 3 points. And at the end, you're like, just tell me what the score is. The problem is, I think there's a good game in here somewhere. It's just that they rules lawyered it to death. Never have I seen such a fun, interesting theme ruined by a game where people are just kind of like, okay, this one's -3, and then just mechanical. Take the cards, put them here. Take these cards, put them here. And I'm supposed to have a wall of heads, but I'm also have a pile of heads in my, what is this even called here? Trophy room. What's that called? Your accolades and your stock. What does all that even mean? It makes no sense thematically. I want to like this game. I think there's a lot of interesting thoughts here. But it's boring. Also, telling the heads apart. They have symbols at the top that kind of help. They're not easy to see. And all the art is good. So there's maybe some people like this. I'm not one of them. 5 out of 10, Open Season. Spotlight's a game about flashlights. Here's the catch, though. The flashlight is simply a white dot. Doesn't actually shine. Or does it? In this game, each player is going to have their own sheet here, which is, it looks like a dark thing. It's a different picture. But everyone also has a flashlight. And see, the way this works is, it's just white. You put it behind here, and look! You can see, and I'll show you as you move around the flashlight here, you can see various different things. Ooh! So, that's how the game works. In a sense, what you're going to do is you're going to take a deck of cards here, and each person's going to find. Here we're finding all the judges. And everyone's going to flip the timer over, and you find as many as you can. When you're done, you'll turn the card over, and I'll turn a different card over so I don't spoil the number of judges, although there is a lot of cards. And it will tell you how many there are. And in fact, it will tell you the locations of each of them on each of the sheets, in case you're like, no, there's not that many. There's the same number on every sheet, although they might be in different positions. Before you do that, each person's going to guess how many there are, and if you are equal to or lower than the actual number, you'll move that many spaces, that many star spaces, getting a bonus if you're absolutely correct. If you go over, you don't move at all. Then the moon will move over the number of moons that it shows here. So the moon will move 2. You don't want the moon to catch anyone. And you will roll this moon die, which will move the moon an extra 1 or maybe even 2 spaces. Or worse, give you the battery, which means on your next turn, you have a smaller flashlight. Much harder to find stuff. So during the timer, players are just using their flashlight, counting them up. They're going to pick the number here and reveal it. Cooperatively, you just need to stay in front of the moon. That's all you need to do. You can also play a competitive version, basically who's finding the most, and you can make it harder or easier by various methods found in the rulebook. But that's how the game plays. I love Where's Waldo. This is Where's Waldo, and I am just so amazed, folks, how this, with a white dot behind it, works. Hang on, let me actually get it in there. That's so cool. It looks like a shining light. I'm so impressed by that itself. But also, it's really fun finding these things. There's a lot where there's 8 or 9 of them out there, and I've counted 3. And I'm like, what? There's more? Because they're in all different poses, and the game has so much replayability because there's so many different cards in the game. How many cards are in there? It tells me, and there's 60 different cards, and then there are 5 boards. So you could play with a different board, and you don't know where everything is. It actually all becomes one big giant picture, which the game also gives you if you just want to look at this picture. The 5 pictures are all parts of this picture put together. And that's so fun. That's so neat. I like the Where's Waldo aspect. I like this gimmick, which works really well. It works with kids. Flipping it over to make a small one, I think it's about equally as good, competitive and cooperatively. I know I almost never say that. This is a nice one for kids. This is one I'll be adding to my own personal collection at home to play with other kids. That is Spotlight. 8 out of 10. Tentricks is Tetris the board game. This game isn't even pretending. This is Tetris the board game. Now, that has some pieces in it that are non-unique Tetris pieces. Tetris pieces are all pieces that are 4 squares or more. This has bigger pieces to it. But other than that, it's the same, sort of. Let me show you. In this game, you'll have all these pieces nicely sorted in different piles in the board. But you have all these different pieces, not just Tetris pieces, but pieces bigger than Tetris. And on a player's turn, they're going to draw a card, find that piece if it's available, and they start where their bar is. It starts in the middle of the board, and you drop it down. Just like Tetris, you can move it into positions. And so as you're dropping them down, you're trying to build lines, and oh, that was a terrible move there. And boom, boom, boom. If you cover up one of these symbols, you'll draw a special ability tile, which you'll have over here, and you can use these to mess with other players. You can say where their piece is going to go, or that sometimes they help you out. Sometimes they put a piece here that you can use in the future. If you fill an entire row, then your bar goes up by 1. So that's always helpful. And moving your bar gives you more room. If you move it all the way to the top and still keep moving it, you'll get bonus tokens. But low, folks, when you draw this card, your bar drops 1. If you draw a card for a piece and there's no piece of that left, the bar drops. And if the bar drops past your last one, you're eliminated. And the last person eliminated is the winner. There's more rules about how you can play some pieces and things like that, but that's the game. The biggest problem with Tentricks is the luck. I love the pieces. I love how they slide down. It's fast. Flip a card, grab the piece, put the piece down. Get a bonus, look at the bonus, then the game screeches to a halt because you have to look up and see what that bonus does. The bonuses are probably the biggest problem. There's 2 problems with this game. It's lucky. So I mean, sometimes you just get a lot of small pieces. You're going to do better than the guy who gets a lot of big pieces. You can argue the big pieces might give you more bonuses, but Then the bonuses is the other problem. There's take that. I get to decide where your piece goes. Well, obviously I'm going to royally mess you over. And that also slows the game down a little bit. I wish the bonuses were more for you rather than hurting other people. Or something if you finish a line, that, like the old Game Boy versus Game Boy. If I finished a line or finished 2 lines, you would get 1 line added to your board or something like that. That still isn't bad though. It still works. The pieces are neat. It's fun. If you like Tetris and have wanted it to be a board game, this is one of the best versions out there. It's not necessarily my style because, like I said, the luck. I think that the little bar that comes down and moves up is brilliant. That works really well. It's colorful. It's easy to teach and play. Like I said, the only thing where it slows down is getting people to figure out all those bonuses. So it's almost there for me. I give this one a 6 out of 10. I wanted to like it more, but I like it well enough. Tentricks. All right, folks. Well, there you go. 7 different games. Some good, some bad. Maybe you've thoughts on any specific game here. Let us know in the comments. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel.